Yeah, if you've got a TheraBand or a stretchy pair of tights for this class, then do grab it. And we'll just put it down by our side for now, because we'll come to that in a minute. So we're going to start off by doing some diaphragm release work and rib mobility work. We're going to start by tapping the right side of the ribs. So we're just tapping underneath the collarbone, all the way around that right side of the ribs. So just bringing some awareness, increasing our proprioception, increasing blood flow, stimulating the nerves, just waking this side of the body up. Nice. Lovely. And then bring your hands, one of your hands, your right hand around the back of the ribs, kind of thumb around the back, hand on the side of the ribs, and bring this left hand onto the front. And we're just going to start off by coming into flexion and extension. So we're lifting the ribs up at the front, inhale, and then exhale, flexing forward with the ribs. Inhale and exhale. Nice. And just trying to keep the pelvis fairly stable. So it's a movement of the ribs, not of the pelvis. So we're not like shifting the pelvis forwards as we come into that extension and flexion. We're just doing it through the ribs. And without moving the pelvis, you might find there's less mobility. You know, you can't come as far, but we want to just work into that rib cage area in the diaphragm. Nice, lovely. And then coming up to center, and then bring your hands on both sides of your ribs. And then we're just going to shift over to the right. So we're going to shift the ribs into the hands over to the right, and then back to center. We're not going to go to the left yet. So you're just shifting ribs over to the right. And just keep breathing as you do this. So it's just shift. Like kind of pushing your ribs with your hands into that right hand. Lovely. Keep going with this. And then coming back to center. Bring your hand across to your rib cage again. So both hands are on that right side. And we're going to lateral bend to the left. So we're going to lateral bend over to the left-hand side. So we're stretching this right-hand side. Lovely. And keep breathing as you do that. So you can inhale as you come into flexion, and exhale as you come back up to center. Nice. And let's do 2 more. Lovely. And then we're going to rotate to the right. So we're going to rotate rib cage round to the right hand side. Lovely. Keeping that pelvis facing forwards. So it's just a rotation of the ribs. Pelvis stays facing forwards. Make sure you're softening the knees so you haven't got the knees locked out. And we're just rotating the ribs. Lovely. Coming back to center, and then we're going to take some circles with the ribs. So imagine you've got like a pencil in the middle of your rib cage, and that pencil is drawing a circle on the floor. Lovely. And then we're going to come back to center, remove the hands, close down the eyes, and just breathe. And I want you to notice how it feels in the 2 sides of the ribs when you're breathing. Is it more easeful to breathe into the right hand side? Can you feel the breath more in that right hand side? So just noticing how it feels. Lovely. And then we're going to bring the hands to the left hand side. So one hand kind of around the side, thumbs around the back. The other hand is on the front. And we are going to come into that flexion and extension. So flexing the rib cage down towards the pelvis, lifting it up We're shifting it down and up. And keep breathing through this. So a really nice warm-up exercise for getting some more movement into that rib cage, into the diaphragm, into the breathing muscles. Lovely. Calming back to center and then bringing the hands on both sides of the ribs, and we're just shifting the ribs over to the left-hand side. Keeping the pelvis fairly still if you can. So it shifts to the left, back to center. And notice if there's any more movement in this side, or is there less movement compared to the other side. Keep the knees soft. Lovely. And then calming back to center, bring the hand back onto that left hemisphere, and then you're going to lateral bend to the right hand side. So we're going to lateral bend to the opposite side. So we're stretching the side that we've got our hands on. Yeah, so bend to the other side, Amelia. Yeah, that's it. And to center. So we keep the hands here because it brings in more awareness. It helps us connect more into that area. Lovely. And then making this your last one. Coming back to center. And then we're going to rotate. So rotating the ribs. The pelvis stays facing forwards, and we're just rotating that thoracic region. Keep breathing. Lovely. And then coming back to center. And then we're going to do those circles again. So we're going to circle round to the left side first, and then round to the right. So drawing that circle with the pencil that's in the middle of the ribs. Nice. So it's like circling round. You can keep breathing. You might want to breathe in as you come forwards with the ribs. Exhale as you go back. Really hard not to move the pelvis with it, isn't it? So just trying to isolate the movement with the ribs. Nice. And then coming back to center. And we're just going to tap, because I forgot to tap at the beginning. So we're going to tap into those ribs. Nice. Lovely. And then bring the hands down by your side. And do some lateral breaths. So filling up that whole rib cage. And seeing how easeful that breath feels now that we've loosened everything off a little bit more. Nice. And then grab your TheraBand and bring it around the back of your ribs. And we're going to place it in each hand. And we're going to reach the hands out a little bit in front of us. And then we're going to do our 3 breaths and our apnea with the hands around with the TheraBand. So if you're, there's an option to leave the apnea out and go for a 4th breath. So if you suffer with high tone in the pelvic floor, in the diaphragm area, in the abdomen, then you might want to add in a 4th breath instead of the apnea. So when you're ready, we're going to inhale into the band all the way round. And exhaling slowly through the mouth. Inhaling into the band all the way round. And exhaling softly and slowly. Inhaling into the band. Exhale slowly through the mouth. You're going to pause here, open the ribs if you're going for apnea, or do another inhale. Lovely. And then we're going to cross the band over at the front. So the band crosses over, and then we bring the hands out again. So we've got that tensioning of the band on the front of the ribs as well now. So we've got the band in opposite sides of the hand, if that makes sense. So it's crossed over. And we're going to do that breathing again. So we're going to stay stacked for this. We haven't brought in our lean forward. So we're just going to stay stacked with feet hip distance apart and parallel. Knees are soft, pelvis is in neutral, rib cage is stacked on top, shoulders on top of that, head is on top of that, listening to that conversation behind you. So when you're ready, we're going to inhale into the ribs, into the band. And exhaling softly and slowly through the mouth. Inhaling into the band. Exhaling slowly through the mouth. Inhale. Exhaling softly and slowly. Hold the breath out, pause, open the ribs, or take your fourth inhale. Lovely. Breathing in when you're ready. And then just release the band. We're going to bring it back. We're going to uncross the band and bring it back into the hands and kind of stretch that band away. So we can stretch out the arms a little bit more. And we're going to bring the balance point forwards onto the front of the feet this time. So we've got that slight lean forwards of the whole body. So with that lean forward, there'll be more engagement through the muscle chains. And then we're going to do our 3 or 4 breaths here. So you're going to inhale into the back of the ribs, really breathing into the back of the ribs. Exhaling slowly through the mouth. Really breathe into the back of that band. And exhaling softly and slowly. Inhaling. Exhale slowly through the mouth. Pausing here, open the ribs or take your fourth inhale. Hold it here, stretch that band away from you. Breathing in when you're ready. Nice, lovely. Then you're going to take your band and you're going to tie it around your ribs to give you some feedback for the rest of the class. So not too tight that you're restricting the movement, but just tight enough so you've got that feedback of the band around the ribs. Lovely. And then we're going to bring our hands into a low V position. Hands are going to come slightly in front of the body. Our elbows are slightly bent. We're spreading the shoulder blades away from each other. And then we're bringing our balance point forward onto the front of the feet, but we've got some softness through this frame. So we've got engagement, but softness. So bring in some softness through the frame and drop the shoulders down. And then when you're ready, we're going to inhale all the way around the ribs, breathing in softness. And then exhaling out calm as you float up towards the sky on your exhale. You're going to inhale softness. And exhaling slowly through the mouth as you float away with calm. Inhale that softness. Exhaling slowly through the mouth, calm exhale. You're going to hold the breath out, pause, soften the belly, and then open the ribs, or take your fourth inhale and exhale. Going to hold it here for as long as you can. And then breathing in when you're ready. Nice. We're going to bring the hands to the hips, bring the feet slightly wider, and we're going to do some circles with the hips. So we're just going to release everything off. Nice, so you're circling one way. Keep a bend in the knees. And then we're going to circle the other way. Lovely. Keep breathing, sticking with your lateral breathing. And then we're going to come back to center. Bring the feet hip distance apart and parallel. Everything's nice and stacked. And then we're going to come into our T position with our arms. Again, arms slightly in front of the body, elbows slightly bent, spreading the shoulder blades away from each other. And then be like one of those like dancers that has their arms engaged, but they're soft as well. So we've got this fluidity in them. Balance point is forwards. And when you're ready, we're going to inhale into the ribs. Ribs expand. And exhaling slowly through the mouth. Think about floating up to the sky on the exhale. You're going to inhale softness. And exhale calm. Inhaling softness. Exhaling calm. You're going to hold the breath out, pause, open the ribs really slowly, or take your fourth inhale. Holding it here for as long as you can. Keep that frame nice and soft. And then breathing in when you're ready. Really nice. Just shake the arms out. And then we're going to come into our high V position. So bring the arms up, drop the shoulders down, find softness through that frame. Make sure the rib cage is stacked over the pelvis and not arched up. Balance point is forwards. And you're going to do your 4 breaths here. So when you're ready, you're going to inhale into the ribs, softness. And exhale, calm. Think about crown of the head floating up towards the sky. Inhaling softness. And exhaling, calm. Inhale, softness. Exhale, calm as you float up towards the sky. You're going to hold your breath out, pause, release your shoulders, soften your belly, open your ribs, or take your 4th inhale. Hold it here for as long as you can. Breathing in whenever you're ready. Lovely. We're going to come into some hip circles again. So we're just going to take the hips one way. Nice soft bend in the knees. Seeing how fluid you can make this. Like imagining like your water and you're this like swirling of water, like this whirlpool. Nice. And then go the other way. Lovely. Okay, great. And then we're going to come back to center and we're going to come into our Artemis position. So you're going to bring your pinky fingers into your hip crease, feet at hip distance apart and parallel, knees are soft. We're going to lift up and over and lifting up and over, lengthening through the spine, heels of the hands coming to the top of the thighs, sit bones kind of shining towards that back wall, slight curve in the lumbar spine. Balance point is forwards, and then just soften your belly. Let your belly come out. There can be a tendency to suck the belly in. Let it come out, and then we're going to do our breathing from here. So we're going to inhale that softness and exhale calm. Inhaling softness and exhaling calm, thinking about the crown of the head moving away from the sit bones, opposite directions. Inhale, exhaling slowly through the mouth. Pausing here, soften the belly and then slowly open the ribs or take your 4th inhale. Holding it here for as long as you can. And then breathing in whenever you're ready. Nice. We're going to come into some cervical, thoracic and lumbar flexion now. So soften the belly before you begin. We're going to inhale into the ribs. On the exhale, reach ears away from shoulders, chin comes towards the chest. Inhaling into the ribs. Exhale, just curling above that bra strap. Inhale into the ribs. Exhale, hands slide down, looking up at your belly button. You're going to hold the breath out, pause, open your ribs at the bottom, or take another inhale at the bottom here. Hold it here for as long as you can. Make sure your ears and your shoulders are away from your ears. And then breathing in when you're ready. Nice. We're just going to take a forward fold here. So completely fold over the legs. You might need to bend your knees a little bit. And just breathing here at the bottom. We're just going to take some circles with the hands, or half circles I should say, and swinging around from one ankle to the other. Nice. And coming back to centre. And then you're going to step one knee back and then the other knee. And then coming into your all fours position. So you're going to have hands facing towards each other. We're setting up in our Gaia position. Hands underneath shoulders, knees are underneath the hips. Lovely. And you're going to really breathe into the back of your ribs. So breathing into the back of that band in our Gaia position. So toes are tucked under at the back. When you're ready, we're going to inhale into the back of the ribs. And exhaling slowly through the mouth. Inhale into the back of the ribs. And exhale softly and slowly. Inhale, breathing into the back of the ribs. Exhaling slowly through the mouth. You're going to pause here, open the ribs, or take your fourth inhale. And then breathing in whenever you're ready. Nice. We're going to stretch back into a child's pose. Open the knees. Feel those sit bones open. Really soften the belly in child's pose. Let everything soften down. Let go of any hold that you've had on the muscles. And take 5 big breaths into the back of the ribs. Breathing in that softness and breathing out that calm. Nice. So feeling the rib cage with air. And then you're going to come back up into your Gaia position, your all fours position, tucking the toes under. And we're going to do some rocking, which is really calming for the nervous system. It's really good for releasing the pelvic floor and opening the sit bones. So we're going to inhale to rock back and exhale to rock forwards. Soften the belly before you begin, so just let it come out. Don't suck it in. We're going to inhale, push into the hands and the arms to push ourselves back. Exhale slowly through the mouth as you come forwards. Inhaling that softness. And exhaling out calm. Inhaling softness all the way into the ribs. Exhaling slowly through the mouth, coming forwards. You're going to hold your breath out, pause, open your ribs, or take another inhale and an exhale in this static position. Lovely. Holding it here, breathing in whenever you're ready. Nice. And then we're going to swing the legs around the side. Coming down onto our back. And then we're going to set up in our Demeter. So you're going to dorsiflex the feet. Draw the heels back towards you. Pelvis is in that neutral position. Going to have the hands down by your side. And we're going to just do some simple sets of breath here with the hands down by either sides. So just softening the belly before you begin. And then when you're ready, we're going to inhale all the way around the ribs, breathing in softness. And exhaling calm. Breathing in that softness. And exhaling out that calm. Breathing in that softness. And exhaling out that calm. You're going to pause here, open the ribs, or take your fourth inhale. And then breathing in whenever you're ready. Nice. You're going to bring your feet underneath your knees, and we're going to set up for our Aphrodite, our bridge position. So we're going to do 3 breaths and an apnea, and we're going to come up on the apnea, or you're going to do your 4 breaths and come up on your 4th exhale. So when you're coming up, we're thinking about drawing the knees away from you so that we're using the front chain, not the back chain as much. So when you're ready, we're going to inhale into the ribs. Exhaling slowly through the mouth. Inhale softness. And exhaling out calm as you float up with that exhale. Inhale. Exhaling softly and slowly. You're going to pause here, open the ribs, or take your 4th inhale, and then draw the knees away, lift the pelvis and the rib cage up at the same time, holding it at the top, and then you're going to breathe in at the top when you're ready, and then exhale, come back down. Nice. You're going to hug your knees in towards your armpits, really open those sit bones, lengthening the pelvic floor. And we're going to do 5 nice deep breaths in this position. So breathing into the back of the ribs. Lovely. Keep breathing all the way around the ribs. Nice. And when you're ready, you're going to roll over onto your side. You're going to come up to sitting. And that is our practice complete.